Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of A Soul's Quest. I'm your hostess with the mostest. That's so corny. Yeah.
Word.
Jesse, this is my co-host Omar, and we have a very special guest today.
Yes, we do.
Mike Sancho.
All right.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
I'm excited, man. This is
We're
cool.
super
It's
happy
funny,
to have
ain't
you
it?
here.
I know.
Yeah.
We cheated and got started in advance, so now we have to start over.
Look, it's a show. It's like you have to be natural. I mean, like the reality is that it's like have a good time.
Yeah.
It's like live a little.
Yeah, let's live a little.
Let's
Oh,
right.
Mike likes to live a little.
Yeah.
I like to
He
live
likes
a
to live a
lot.
lot.
Yeah, he likes to live a lot. He likes to live a lot.
I like that about you. I love that about you because I hear the stories about you from Omar, like, you know, when you guys conversate and whatever, and I hear about your adventures and I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to do this.
It's only recent, but it's awesome.
Still.
Yes.
Still.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
If I look back at it, I would have done this 30 years ago.
Yeah. I hear you. But don't say what it is yet. We're not there.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
won't spoil the fun. You guys got to wait.
Yeah, there you go.
So Mike, I personally known you. You've been my coach, my brother for a while, in our past lifetime. We won't go into any words on that.
No. Leave that alone.
Leave that alone.
Okay.
But you know, I know a lot about you. But obviously, one of the reasons why I wanted you to be a part of this is because I knowing you as a person and knowing you how you live your life, and those things are the epitome of what we're looking for in a soul's quester. You know.
Oh, I thought you were going in a whole different direction, but
Yeah.
I'm comfortable.
You know how much. You see, this is why Jesse's got to ask most of the questions because you know me too well. It's you know where my head goes sometimes.
Yeah.
But really, the one of the main reasons why we wanted to have you here is because you symbolize that, and not so much in the way that in the theory of what we're talking about, but I've seen it firsthand, you know, and I've seen what you have done for myself and for others. And I think this is something that your journey and quest is something that really I think is cool to share with the audience. So thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate
Definitely.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. It's an honor, really.
it. Okay. Yeah. So
wow.
let's go ahead and what?
Wow, man.
Yeah.
I feel special.
Well,
You
hey.
are special.
Yeah. You know, it's yeah, we'll get into that. Absolutely.
All right.
Go ahead.
So basically what we do is we want to start with just kind of like getting to know you. So just kind of introduce us to who.
Getting to know all about you.
I was going to do a violin, but no. Okay. So we want to start as Mike as a little boy. What was Mike like as a little boy? We want to know like what your family structure was like, you know, your parents, brothers, sisters, things like that.
Well, as a little boy, I had hair.
Didn't we all?
Let's start with
I
that.
did call him out on that when he first got here. I'm sorry.
But my hair was the old bowl haircut. It was that round haircut. So no, that's true. That was my haircut actually. But I'm the youngest of 5 brothers.
Okay. 5, huh?
Yep, 5 brothers, no sisters.
Okay.
It was a evil childhood as well as a good childhood. It was evil versus good always. So my parents divorced when I was 3. My biological father passed away when I was around 7.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I don't know much about him. If he walked in front of me today, I wouldn't recognize him. I don't know anything. I think there's one picture in my house somewhere in a box
Oh, wow.
from their wedding.
Okay.
Okay, so you're talking the 50s, right?
I'm going to move this up so we can
Okay.
get you. Yeah, we need to hear you.
Oh, okay.
I can tell
'cause
this is going to be a good story.
Yeah.
There you
And
go.
so my mom was someone who never wanted responsibility, and she was the princess. So her growing up, it was just her and my uncle, who was, you know, both my mom and my uncle deceased, but, you know, everything was done for her. And so whenever she got in trouble, my grandparents stepped in and did all that.
Okay.
So when she had kids, it was very simple. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment on 179th Street in Jamaica, Queens.
Wow.
Okay, 5 boys, right? 7 people, 1-bedroom apartment.
Wow.
But my grandparents lived in a house in the middle of the street, up the block.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So what would happen is the youngest ones, the 3 youngest go up the street to grandma and grandpa. So, you know, she didn't want to change diapers, none of that stuff. And so my grandmother really was raising us.
Okay.
And then my two older brothers were in the early teens at the time. So what happened is, at some point in time, once they divorced, we were shipped to go live with my grandparents in upstate New York, about 75 miles north of Manhattan.
Okay.
And it was not pleasant. My grandparents were abusive. They would physically beat us every day.
Wow.
Okay. And then at some point after my father passed away, my grandparents actually legally adopted us for the purpose of getting his Social Security check. Because if you survived, you know.
Yeah, let me ask you a question, because we share some personal stuff in our conversations. As a child, going through not having your parents, the abuse with your grandparents, and having that instability at such a young age. When you look back, when you look at that Mike who's a child, what was going through your mind?
I didn't understand what was happening, right? One story that I always remember is, so my grandparents were building this house in upstate New York, and my dad came to get me and wanted to go to a Yankees game. And I said, no, I want to go see the house. And to this day, I regret that, because that would have been that moment, just he and I. You know, I didn't know better. You know, I was 3-4 years old.
Yeah.
What did I know? I mean, you know, I'm getting hit, but I didn't understand why. I didn't know what was going on. You know, I was always thinking I did something wrong. That's why I got hit. Yeah. And you know, it's funny. My wife always says, well, there was things they had to raise kids. I was like, well, there's a difference. Like, I always tell my wife this. If she went into her refrigerator as a kid and ate between meals, she got spanked, because there was 8 kids, 2 parents in Puerto Rico, and that was somebody's dinner.
Yeah.
That's a whole different story. My grandparents were upper middle class.
Right.
They had money. My grandfather would buy a brand new Cadillac cash every 2 years. He had money.
Yeah. It's all about the context.
If I open the refrigerator, if he said to me, Michael, make me a sandwich, and I go open the refrigerator, make him a sandwich, I would get beat for not asking him permission to open the refrigerator.
Okay.
You just told me to make you a sandwich. You know? So it's those type of things. I mean, it was every day we got beat. And if there wasn't a reason in his mind, it was, and my grandmother was the same thing. Everybody thinks this little old lady, no, she was more evil than him. And everyone thinks, wow, you know, it was just him. No. And if there was no reason,
right?
He said, I know you did something I didn't catch.
Okay.
Wow.
Now, what was their background? What was their...
That's what I was just going to ask.
Okay.
Where were they from? Like, is everybody in you're all Puerto Rican?
No, actually, my biological father, this is going to be a shock to some people, is Italian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why I got the white look.
No,
but in Puerto Rico they call it la mancha, right?
La mancha.
You know, tengo la mancha, but
oh my God, go ahead. But yeah, but you're right.
No,
you're
it's
right.
true.
Yeah. So you know, just as a kid, I didn't recognize, but as I got older, I was like, wow, what is going on? And my mom always lived nearby, so we moved to upstate New York, Huckleberry Turnpike. She lived down the street on Huckleberry Turnpike. At one point, she lived the house next to us.
Really? She just never resided in the same place with you.
No, because she didn't want the responsibility.
At one point, we had 10 acres of land. They put a small house in the backyard, and she lived in a small house.
Oh, wow.
Right? But that happened when I was in my teenage years.
So then going back to your grandparents, what was their background? Where did they come from? Why would you think they were so aggressive at that time?
One, my grandfather was physically abused by his father.
Okay.
So that's where it came from.
Okay.
I don't know where it came from with my grandmother. I know they were in a miserable marriage. You know, they slept in separate bedrooms and you know, I call people Lucy, joking around, because my grandfather had an affair with our next door neighbor, Lucy.
Oh.
Right? And you know, she wouldn't divorce him. You didn't do that back then.
No.
But, you know, they weren't happy. And my grandfather was physically abused by his father growing up. So, you know, it's systematic, right? It's you do what you've known, right?
Yeah.
My cousin says it best. If he was sitting here, he would describe it as, well, they grew up during the depression. They're depression parents.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a tight line. You had to keep everybody in order.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that was physically.
Yeah.
And their mindset didn't shift, obviously, because you said they were upper middle class, right? Upper middle. So obviously there was a mindset that they had established and didn't navigate from that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, but that doesn't take away from what happened and the pain of it.
No, of course not.
But it kind of like gives a perspective of that continual a process that is passed down generation to generation. And I think that's a good point, because as we get more into your journey, I want to know what made you shift away from that. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Yeah.
But as a kid, when they talk about low self-esteem, I had no self-esteem.
I was just going to ask you, well, how did that affect you, like mentally? Like, how were you?
So,
did you have friends?
So remember I said it was evil and good, right?
Right. Okay.
Our friends were phenomenal.
Okay.
I mean, we played sports, so we had to do things. We had chores. Right. Everybody has chores, but we had like over the top chores.
Right.
So my grandfather loved chickens and animals,
right,
and birds. So we had to go take care of his chickens and birds and all this stuff. But it wasn't like he used them to eat. He just grew and gave them to people, and that was it. But he never took care of them. That's his hobby, but we had to do it. But like the abuse included, we weren't allowed to take a bath or shower but once a week.
Oh wow, really?
So before going to school, we had to go chicken coop, take care of these animals, and then it became chickens, it became rabbits, it became pigs, it became goats. Sometimes all at once, sometimes it just shifted.
Yeah.
And we had to go do these things. So 10 acres of land, even at the age of like 6, was when I think it was first grade when I moved up there. We cleared 10 acres of land by hand.
Oh, wow.
With axes and machetes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Old school.
And then we had a big bonfire and burned it and everything. And then when we were done, we were allowed to go play. So we would go play baseball for whatever sports season it was. We would go hang out with our friends who, like I said, were awesome. And they knew what we were going through. But we had to be home sitting at the dinner table at 5 o'clock. Not 5 p.m. in 1 second.
Right.
If we were 1 second late, we were beaten. We were sent to our room. And that meal stood on the table, and that's what we had for breakfast. If they didn't refrigerate it, it stood
left
there,
out.
and you had to eat that for breakfast.
Wow.
I mean, there's a ton of things of that nature. So I had no self-esteem growing up. And I'm going to shock you, Jesse. He knows this. I used to stutter, and I used to mumble.
Yeah.
And I was
now.
a big introvert.
Really?
I was content. I could sit in that corner and just chill and just have a moment and not. I didn't like talking to people. Very shy, very scared, timid. And you look at me and be like, no way.
That's what I'm thinking. No, the Mike I know.
Yeah. So that was the results of it. So and I have my 2 brothers have issues.
Really?
Like, so I'm the youngest. My brother Joe's a year older than me. My brother Frank's a year older than him, and we're the 3 youngest. 1, 2, 3 in age. My brother Frank was grandma's boy. Yeah. He was grandma's boy. She took care of him, so he got less beatings. My brother Joe was vocal and like tried to always fight back.
Right.
And so he got not only his beatings, he got Frankie's share of the beatings.
Yeah.
And then he had a big mouth.
Oh.
Like he was like, he would tell my grandfather, one day I'm gonna be bigger than you. I'm gonna whoop your ass.
Oh my God.
So I mean,
as
rebel.
an 8-year-old, he was the rebel.
He was
the rebel.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
then I followed Joe. I wasn't a rebel, but I would follow behind him, and so I would get whippings too.
Yeah.
But I was also asthmatic, so when I never had any asthma medicine as a kid. No, we didn't go to the doctor, we didn't go to the dentist, none of that. If I had an asthma attack, I would have to walk a mile to my friend Bing's house and borrow his asthma pump.
Oh my gosh.
Now I'm having an asthma attack. I got to walk.
Wow.
Things of that nature. So it was all of that type of stuff. So. To this day, I say my brother Joe belongs on a black sofa once a week. He needs mental therapy because if you when I talk to him, I don't try to have any debates or talk politics. And he's a Mets fan. I'm a Yankee fan. We don't get into it.
No.
Because it was a point of our lives. We didn't speak for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Because he came to my house when I brought my first home. He pulled a practical joke. And I was like, you got to go. Magda's pissed. You got to go. Get out.
Right.
And he was like, yo, after all we've been through, you're going to kick me out of your house? He didn't talk to me for 3 years. He didn't show up at my wedding. The only reason he talked to me because my son was born, and he was like, his wife reached out to me and said, Joe said, you better call him when your son is born. I was like, absolutely, I'll call him. And that would, brought us back together. But he takes anything as an affront, right? We've been through so much that we stick together no matter what. Type thing. And so my brother Frank, can't hold a job. His appearance is disheveled. He looks like he's 80 years old.
Wow.
He's only 3 years older than me. Yeah. He's a hot mess. He's dirt poor, broke, living in the house we grew up in that they don't own anymore. It's under foreclosure, but because of the pandemic, they can't kick him out.
They can't go anywhere.
Yeah, so it's had a negative effect on
a lot of you,
the whole family.
The entire
even
family.
My one brother John, who, he's handicapped. He was born with elephant man's disease, neurofibromatosis. So he had tumors on his eye. He doesn't have a right eye.
Yeah,
he's living like a squatter.
Right.
I mean, poor, doesn't have cell phone. They don't have AC right now, and big heat wave in New York. And it's that whole mental effect of it. That my oldest brother also went through it, but he was older and, he did have our dad and was able to get away, but he did get abused as well. Yeah. He and I talk every day, and, I learned so much every day about what he went through, and he learns even more. Like, I think it was last week he found out for the first time we were not allowed to bathe but once a week. Yeah. He's like, I never knew that.
Really?
He was like, when I came home from the Navy, I would have stepped in. Wow. I was like, wow, I thought you knew, you know, but he's normal. Yeah. Right.
Quote unquote, right?
Quote unquote. I'm normal.
Yeah.
Quote unquote. Yeah. But the three other ones are like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because it's affected every single one of you in different ways. Right. And there's different outcomes from that trauma that happened before.
One thing that's interesting that I just wanted to, I don't know, I assimilate with it because when I did my interview and I shared parts of my childhood, my brother called me and he's like, I just finished listening to both parts of your interview now. And he's like, I didn't know that, that this happened. And I didn't know that you were, abused, and like, when, where? And I didn't. And it was interesting because I'm like, but you knew this. I mean, you were there. He's like, I don't remember that experience, that the loss of our aunt. I don't remember her funeral. And it's just interesting how there's different, even though you were together, you guys have different perspectives about what happened and how you respond. Right. Your responses to that are different, Yeah. That's interesting.
And in my case, I was lucky I had a mentor. Yeah. That's what got me out of it. That's, and we'll at some point talk about that, right? But that's what really made the difference in my life.
Right. Okay.
So as you segued from, and how old were you when all this was going on?
Well, I moved to upstate New York, like 5 or 6, first grade, 6 years old, but then it was ongoing. And so as we became teenagers, it got even worse because at some point, my brother Frank graduates from high school, goes to the Army. Now, it's 1/3 of the whoopings that I used to get, I'm now getting double 2/3.
Yeah.
I'm getting 50% of them. Yeah. So I went from 33% of the whoopings to 50%.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, you want growth, but not like that.
No.
I'm like, hey, wait a minute.
Not in beatings.
Not in beatings.
And then my brother Joe got kicked out of the house.
Oh.
And this is, and if there's going to be a point I cried, it would be this one. Mm-hmm. I sat there, couldn't do anything. And my grandfather, so the dynamic where we grew up, and you know this from the Bronx, is that upstate New York was where Puerto Ricans migrated to have a better education system.
Okay.
But the breadwinner stood in the city during the week and went home on the weekends. So my grandfather really wasn't there. Everybody was like, wow, your grandfather was, well, he was home on weekends. Yeah. It was my grandmother. And I remember we were going to go to a high school basketball game. And my grandmother turned around and said no. And so our friends called him on the way to pick us up, and my brother Joe's on the phone and says, we can't go. And they asked him why, and he said, because she's a bitch. Ooh. My mother, my grandmother, and my brother, the one with the one eye, came and physically, punching him, beat him until his face was a bloody mess.
Wow.
Kicked him out the house, went and brought him back when my grandfather came on the weekend, and he got beat again. I'm not talking about like beatings with the belt in the hand. I mean, like physical, like they whooped his behind like a street fight. Wow. And I'm like, wow. And I had to sit there because like, what was I going to do? I was the skinny 102-pound kid, you know, even as a teenager, like, I'm not going to step in. I'm not going to get my behind whooped.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
you know what's interesting that a lot of people will listen to that story and make it feel like that seems like it's out there, and it's not.
No.
It's something that people live in their own flesh, and it happens more often than we truly talk about and realize, particularly in our culture, particularly in the Spanish culture. And we think that's just the way that we are, but it's not. It's very damaging.
You know, and my aunt, she lives in Tampa, man. Love that woman to death. You know, she always, when she was around, it was great. Because when they came to visit, it's like my uncle didn't put up with that nonsense. You're not going to touch them kids.
Really?
He had 5 kids of his own.
Yeah.
You know, he's struggling to make ends meet, you know. But my aunt was not playing it, you know, type thing. And love Titi Armin. I mean, she was like, when she was around, everything was good.
Yeah.
It was like life was great. It was, and don't get me wrong, like growing up, 10 acres, we had a go-kart, brand new. Sears go-kart, double-seater. You know, we had stuff. But it was like, at what expense?
At what expense,
right?
correct.
So when you look at those type of things, I mean, and I was telling our friend Craig, you know, like we can go on Huckleberry Turnpike, go to the end of Huckleberry Turnpike, like a 30-minute walk or bike ride. There were caves. We would go play in caves.
Right.
I mean, we lived across the street from a gravel pit where we went sleigh riding, like tobogganing.
It's upstate New York. Yeah,
we played ice football. We played tackle football on the frozen ice because we had a creek that ran through our property.
Oh wow!
Like we had cool stuff, and I mean, we all played sports, you know, and so it wasn't all that bad. It was just like we lived to get to the next day.
To the next day.
Yeah.
Lived to, I never missed a day of school. I wasn't staying home with them folks.
No.
Right? But it was get to school. In summertime, live to go play.
Right.
Right? So do everything. I remember one time, it's a funny story. My grandfather would drink black coffee with anisette, which is a sugary
Okay.
liquid.
I was going to ask if that was a sugar.
anise.
Sugary
in
liquor.
Spanish,
Right?
Okay.
So the first time he sends me to go get coffee, and he says, don't forget the anisette. I go to my brother Joe. What is that? He goes, it's the plop plop fizz fizz.
Oh no.
I go, he said anisette. He was like, no, he meant Alka-Seltzer.
Oh.
I go,
Man.
and I put Alka-Seltzer in his coffee.
Yeah.
I hand it to my grandfather, who looks at it, and it's fizzing. It's doing its thing. He drinks it anyway, and it's nasty. And he broke the coffee mug over my head.
Oh wow.
My gosh.
And my brother Joe's behind me, like laughing, but also disappointed that happened to me because of him. But it was funny to him. But he was like, he felt real bad.
Yeah.
But you know, and I always remember this. In our garage, so you had the foundation was built, and then there was like a ledge. Oh, sorry, there was a ledge, and there was a can of lye that sat on the ledge.
Yeah.
Along with a bunch of other things, but always it was within eyesight of when you walked in,
Right.
and then you walked through the garage door to get in the house. It was right there.
Yeah.
And every day I thought about taking a teaspoon and putting it in his coffee.
Oh.
Every day.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I don't know why I never did it. And then the funny thing was, my brother Joe, recently, like a couple of years ago, was at my house, and he was talking about that, and he goes, hey, Michael, remember that can of lye? I always used to want to put some in Grandpa's coffee. I'm like, I want to do the same thing. I was like, I'm glad we never talked about it. We would have been the Menendez brothers.
Right.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
No, I mean,
It's true,
it
though.
was,
Yeah.
I remember when my father passed away. You want to talk about evil? It took us an hour and a half to get to Queens, and we were only allowed to be at the funeral for 20 minutes.
Wow.
Really? Yep. They can only stay for 20 minutes. Like, our father died. Right? So I remember those things. So my dad was dirt poor. He would save his money. He had visitation rights once a month.
Wow.
Once a month. He would take 3 trains from Jamaica, Queens to Grand Central Station, hop on the short line bus, get off in Newburgh. His cousin would charge him $20 for the 20-mile drive to Plattekill and drop him off at the corner store. He would walk the 3 miles up Huckleberry Turnpike, and then we had our own private road called Sancho Lane. That was cool.
Oh, wow.
It was just a long driveway.
Nice.
And no matter the weather, he was not allowed in the house.
Oh wow.
He was not allowed to ask for water, use the bathroom, nothing. And so in the wintertime, if it was too cold, he would do this journey, which would take him all day long. he would take this journey, save his money, and if it was too cold, he was told, you only get 5 minutes because it's too cold and they're going to get sick.
Right. Because you had to go
allowed in the house.
In the house, you had to go outside, right.
We had to go outside with if it rained, they can't go outside, it's raining, they will get sick.
Wow.
I mean, if it was, it's too hot. Meanwhile, you just had us clear an acre of land with machete and axes and burn the wood, but it's too hot.
Yeah.
And they would do everything to limit. And the verbal abuse, like you're stupid like your dad, or you're going to be a bum like your dad. You know, my dad did, some things. He'd been in jail. You're going to be in jail like your dad. You're going to be all that along with abuse. And then you see this man going through that. And I was led to believe he was this evil guy. And he wasn't.
Right.
I mean, what he went through to come see us, even if it was, there was plenty of times it was just to peek through the door.
Yeah.
And say hello and say, I love you.
Yeah.
I remember those things. I can't remember his face. I can't remember what he looks like.
Wow.
But I remember those things.
Yeah.
Right. And that was I've got to control you. I've got to keep you, under my thumb.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Then, as you're getting out into your teen years, more rebellious, your brother's out of the house, and then you have this conflicting and disappointing dad figure in your life. I mean, you have your grandfather who's abusive and evil and mean, and then you have your dad who's trying to be there but can't be there.
Well, remember he died when I was 7,
and he died he died young. Right. So, how are you feeling right now in regards to those pivotal people in your life that are not setting an example for you?
Well, luckily for me, my mom remarried.
Oh, okay.
When I was 10.
Oh, okay.
So Henyo, he's my dad, right? I didn't live with him till I was 16.
Okay.
But he was there, and dude was, he's 6'4", 250 pounds. He looks like Jimmy Snuka. He looked like the wrestler Jimmy Snuka. He's built like him too. I mean, he could bench press 400 pounds. I mean, dude.
Wow.
And when he was around, nobody messed with us.
Yeah.
Right. So loved having him around. And then they built the house in the backyard, so now he's there. So there was some buffers, but he was an alcoholic. So when he would get drunk in the evening, he couldn't be there to defend. So it was like, wow, I've got this guy. It's awesome, but I didn't. And it was when I was 11 or 12, I took the wrong bus home from school. I got my behind whooped for that.
Really?
Didn't tell anybody. I'm going to Taramar Tennis Academy, and I'm going to ask for a job cutting grass because I'm going to work, because I'm going to save money, and I'm out of here.
Yeah.
That was my thought process. So I go and I walk up to Tennis Academy, and the guy says to me, I'm nervous. Can I help you? I said, I'm here to ask for a job. And he goes, how old are you? He goes, I can't give you a job. That's illegal. I said, oh, man, I need a job. I just want to cut your grass. I'll cut your grass.
Right.
And he goes, come back tomorrow. I didn't know his name or anything. I come back the next day. And then he became my mentor. Bob Davis is my mentor to this day.
Okay.
If I have something I need information on or thought process, I reach out to him.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
Over time, we've distance has separated us. But I walk up and there's a can of an empty Coca-Cola can on the driveway, and I walk right past it. And he goes, hey, you're not going to pick that up? I was like, I didn't put it in there. It's not mine. And he was like, well, I was going to give you the job cutting grass. You could leave. I was like, if that's your attitude, yeah, I'm out of here. Right? And I start leaving. And he calls me back. He goes, you going to give up that easy? And I go, huh? And he goes, I put that down on purpose to see if you would pick it up.
Right.
And then we started talking. And he said, I can't give you a job, but I'll teach you how to play tennis. You cut my grass. I was like, okay, I can do that. And that's how it started. And he gave me, he did the greatest thing for me ever, right? So his then wife, Mary, I call her mom number 2.
Okay.
When I was talking, hey, mom number 2, how are you? Da, da, da. His daughters are my sisters,
right?
Because I grew up with them at that point. So he gave me an old tape recorder one day with a microphone. And he says, dude, you don't know how to talk. I was like, huh? He goes, you stutter, you mumble. I can barely hear you. I just want you to talk into this thing and fill the tape and then play it back. And it was embarrassing to listen to myself.
Wow.
He taught me how to talk. He taught me how to pronunciate words. And it was Bob and his wife and his daughters that really helped me. And that's how I was able to overcome it. So I was, but when I became legal age to work, I got a paycheck.
So how old were you when you met Him?
11 or 12.
12. Okay.
Maybe 13.
Okay. Just making sure. Okay.
Now, let me ask you a question about that, because this always interests me, right? As a young person going through all this trauma, going through all these issues, these uncertainties, instability, you still have the wherewithal to say, I want to get out of here.
Yeah.
What do you attribute that to?
I don't know. I just know that getting my ass kicked every day for no reason didn't feel right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that simple.
I think it was
right?
probably just that alone.
just
You're like, I
like-
can't do this no more.
I see
Yeah.
my friends; they don't go through that. I see different things, and I'm like,
But
intuitively, it's like just doesn't feel right.
yeah.
yeah, but the thing that I appreciate so much about you as a person is what you mentioned before, that a lot of your brothers didn't feel the same way,
They did feel the same way about getting out.
but they didn't take the action like you did.
Right. I mean, it just at some point. Well, my brother Joe did by fighting back. He was
Correct.
like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
fight. I remember my grandfather's funeral. My titi sends me and my cousin Edward, the same age, in there to make sure he doesn't flip the coffin, and he was about to flip the coffin.
Oh,
Wow. But he was that my process, and I'm gonna fight back.
yeah.
I'm gonna beat you one
Right.
day type
Right.
thing.
But it's cool to see how much character, out of all that darkness, and out of all that, how much your character developed to want something different and see something different. That's something that's really amazing that within yourself that came about out of such a greedy, not pleasant situation.
But there was other people involved, or so on the left side.
No,
of us
don't
was,
minimize yourself. Don't minimize yourself.
But I'm saying I was able to have that thought process because when you like Lucy lived on the left, that's who we had the affair with. On the right side was our friends Chichi, Chino, Johnny, Adam, David, 5 siblings, 4 brothers, 1 sister, their mom. Right. So Anna was like that surrogate mother, and so she would, tell my grandfather, stop hitting him. If she was around, she would stop him. Those type. She would talk to us. She would always pull me aside, and my brother Joe, and do those type of things. And the funny story is, my mom went and had an affair with her husband. I mean, it's a whole messed up thing. Right?
Oh wait, there's more.
Yeah. But she was, that type of person that would just be there for us. I remember Carmen and Louis Torres, that were family friends. Like when they were around, nothing happened. So you would see other people, and you would see their kids, and it was like, wow, I could do that.
Right.
Okay.
So
I
you
could
were
be that.
motivated by these other people.
Excellent.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm not minimizing myself. It's just I got to give them credit that they took the time to talk to me.
And also, I think that and I didn't mean to cut you off, but that attributes like your disposition or your character, because a lot of people are in that sort of like darkness, and that they experience this and they just see like doom and gloom. But you were able to see these other people and have relationships with these people and say, I want that. I want to get out of that. I can do this. Not everybody thinks that way.
And at the time, probably not. That's not my thought process. It's just live.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, it was like stay alive.
Yeah.
Right. Type thing. And don't have an asthma attack.
Yeah.
Right. And the cool thing is that you had that's the beauty of how significant people's lives are, because even with you feeling and going to a home that felt like that, there were people that took the time to be nice and take care of you.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
That's the beauty of an individual taking action, even if it's small actions. And look how it paid you off for you.
But at the end of the day, no matter what, it's always about community.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the community, right? So there's always, the old lady on the block. There's always
course.
someone that's
Yes.
the glue.
Yeah.
And I live for those moments,
Yeah.
to be around those people, because I knew at that moment in time I couldn't get hit.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't beat me.
Right.
Yeah.
I knew that.
Yeah.
Even at the age of 8, I understood that. So like if I heard the doorbell, I'm running to go answer the door because there's somebody there. I can't get beat at this moment in time if somebody else is here.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but it was community. It was, their parents were, their kids were our friends.
Yeah.
Friends,
They
yeah.
saw what we were going through. They
Yeah.
they knew those things. The guy who gave me the asthma bump thing. I remember him in high school being the first person to give me deodorant.
Oh.
Wow.
Like, wow, he pulled me aside. He was like, Michael, you got a body odor.
Yeah. Just little things.
Yeah.
Little things, so.
Yeah. So after meeting Mr. Davis, right, you got introduced to tennis.
Yeah.
And now you're becoming a young man. You're transitioning from that stage of dependency in childhood, becoming a young man. How is that transition with tennis, Mr. Davis, and then you actually transforming into a young man?
Wow. I mean, that if I could do it all over again, I would love to do that all over again and just experience it one more time. It was awesome because, Althea Gibson, who's the first African-American in history to win Wimbledon, be ranked number 1 in the world, taught me how to hit an overhead smash. Althea Gibson.
Really?
Yes. Wow. So I had an overhead and I was aggressive with it. And she was like, hey, Mike, I mean, you got hops. Get up there and go get it.
Yeah.
That was her advice to me.
Wow.
And she goes, no, kill it.
Yeah, that's like
hit it hard. Take your anger out on it.
That's like Serena Williams
Thank you.
teaching you to play tennis right now.
Althea Gibson. I'm like, I meet Arthur Ashe. I wound up going to work for Arthur Ashe.
Did you really?
Yeah, I worked for Arthur Ashe for like 6 years with his Safe Passage Foundation. That's how I got involved with Boys and Girls Clubs.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So now I'm getting this side of it, and I'm getting a little cocky now too.
No.
Now, I mean, tennis, I see my out. I literally see my out. Now my brother Joe's kicked out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I'm getting a paycheck, and I had to give my paycheck, sign it over, and give it to my grandparents. And I never saw a dime of that money.
Wow.
They kept my money.
So now they wanted you to work because you're bringing home money.
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
That's interesting.
Right?
So,
Oh, we're going to put it in a bank account for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I spent my money.
Never saw that money.
But now at some point, I'm in the house by myself at the age of 16.
Okay.
And I can't deal. I just can't. I go to Bob and I say, hey, Bob, you got this tennis academy. It's, it's just before my 17th birthday, September. And I said, it's empty. Can I stay here? He was like, absolutely not. I'll lose, my license. I can't do that. No. Damn. What am I going to do? I knew I had to get out.
Yeah.
I just knew I had to get out of the house.
I mean,
Because now you're taking all the beatings.
I'm taking all the beatings.
All
I'm
the
doing
abuse.
So I'm doing all the chores.
Right.
Going to school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Going to tennis academy.
No showers.
No, at tennis academy I showered.
Oh, good. Okay.
now
Just
I had
checking.
to play the shower.
Okay.
Tennis academy,
Okay.
work, and then on the weekends do the same thing, work, and come home. So but it's impossible.
Yeah.
And I'm still getting beat and all this. And I wasn't going to let that stop me. So I get with my friends and I go to Alex Cebolleto, and I said to his mom, I said, hey, can I stay here a couple of days? Yes. I go to Rolo and Al and go to their mom, Giselle, and I say, hey, can I stay here a couple of days? Yep. I go to Bing, who lived a little further away, and I go to Ita and Claudio. I said, can I stay here a couple of days? So I map out, I'm going to be house hopping.
Yeah.
Right.
Saturday, I go to work at Terramar Tennis Academy. I had this little moped, Honda scooter moped.
Nice.
Type thing. I packed what I just needed.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was at that time getting free clothing from Prince manufacturers through Bob. So I had a little spot at the tennis academy. I was putting clothes there.
Yeah.
Take a little bit here, take a little bit here. So before you know it, all I had was a little bag that I put on the Honda scooter and left the scooter at the house.
Wow.
And walked to Terramar Tennis Academy, which was like a 8-mile walk.
Yeah.
Wow.
All day, worked, tennis. I normally get home around 4.
Yeah.
4 o'clock rolls around, no Michael.
Mm.
5 o'clock rolls around, no Michael. Now, they don't send somebody to go, no.
I was just going to say,
No.
what did they think about
No,
you
it's
not
when
being home?
Michael walks through that door, we're going to
Double
whoop his
whip his
behind.
ass, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I walked in at 10 o'clock at night. Now, my friend Bing had his station wagon. We had this 450-foot long driveway.
Right.
So he turned the lights off, parked halfway down, and he actually backed in so he could just haul ass.
Yeah.
Because my grandfather was this big, mean dude,
Yeah.
And I was like, just wait when you see the headlights on my moped,
Mm-hmm.
then we'll go.
Right.
And you just take off.
Okay.
So, okay. So I didn't even take my moped. I walk in at 10 o'clock at night. And where you been? My grandmother's yelling at me. And my grandfather sat in the one chair, everybody's got their chair. He's sitting there.
Yeah.
I walk up to him, and she's yelling and screaming and about to get up. And I just say to her, be quiet. I'm not even talking to you. And I look at my grandfather, and I stick my hand out, and I say, thank you for everything. I'm moving out.
Huh.
This is the last time you will see me.
Wow.
And she says, kick his ass. How dare he talk to you that way? Who does he think he is? And I said, if you get out of this chair, I will kill you.
Wow.
Wow.
I will end your life right here.
Wow.
Thank you. I'm moving out.
Wow.
Shitting in my pants.
Oh, I'm sure.
Scared, yeah.
'Cause I was this skinny. I was this little skinny
Yeah.
kid. That's the bravest thing I've ever done outside of asking my wife to marry me.
Yeah.
Oh.
And shaking, I couldn't ride the moped. I went downstairs, grabbed that bag, and ran out the garage and banging on Bing's car, and he takes off. And I'm yelling, hey, wait for me. And then he slams on the brakes, and I jump in. He goes, what's the matter? Where's your bike? I said, man, just go. Just go.
Oh, my
and
gosh.
the first house I stood at was Rollo and Al's house in Newburgh. And I stood there, and I hopped around.
Yeah.
About a week goes by, and I still went to school. The first person I asked was my brother Joe. I said, hey, he lived up the street. I'm like, can I move in? I can't live there anymore. I'm moving out. And he goes, you can't. And I said, what? And he said, I can't force you to go to school. You need to finish school.
Yeah.
You're doing this whole tennis thing. I won't be able to control you. I'm not your parent. You're not going to listen to me.
Yeah.
I don't even have electricity. This is not the place for you.
Yeah.
You know that. He goes, and he helped me figure out where to go. And maybe a week or two, I don't remember the timing. The only person outside of my brother Joe who ever saw me play tennis was my stepdad.
Oh, wow.
He walked into Taramar Tennis Academy, into the bubble. He walked in on a Saturday, and I'm practicing, and I was shocked. And he and I had a great relationship.
Yeah.
And I'm just blown away that he's there, and he's watching me play. He didn't say anything. He watched for maybe half an hour. Finally, Michael. And he goes, you're coming home with me today. I said, huh? What? He goes, this going place to place, that's no life.
Yeah.
Now, Henyo dropped out of school in third grade in Puerto Rico because his father died. He had to make money for the family.
Yeah.
And he was a big kid, you know, no education, can't read or write.
Right.
He can do numbers very well, and he could sign his name. But, you know, and here's a guy who can't read or write
Yeah.
that knows this is not right.
This is never Korean.
Right. And he goes, so when you're finished, I'll be waiting, wrap up, get in the car. Now I'm nervous wreck. Gets home. It's 5 o'clock. How ironic is this, right? It's 5 o'clock. We walk in the door. And my grandfather gets up and he says, sit. And he just tells him to sit. And he says, this is how this works. Michael is my son. Michael is moving home with me today in my house. Nobody touches him.
Oh, wow.
He stays there as long as I want him to stay there. He finishes school, and he does whatever he wants to do at that point. No one touches him. No one bothers him.
Wow.
If not, you have to deal with me. I was like, wow. And I moved into my mom's house, in the backyard.
Yeah, in the backyard. Yeah.
In the backyard, which, you know this about me. I can have a little ego once in a while.
Yeah.
So I would, on my bike or my car, and walk past my grandfather like, hey, how you doing? Like, you can't touch me now.
That's awesome.
But that was short-lived. That was short-lived because that spring, my mom says, where are you going to college? And I'm like, I'm not. I'm turning pro. And it's like, what? There ain't no Puerto Rican tennis pros. What are you, stupid? You're an idiot. And my stepfather wasn't there. It was a Saturday, and he wasn't there. And she goes, well, until you finish school, you got to pay rent now.
Really?
I'm like, whoa, And then I was like, yeah, whatever. And everything. I'll just wait till, Henyo gets home, and I'll tell Henyo will take care of this
Right.
and everything. And then, Henyo comes home drunk. Like, damn, man. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And then I leave, and when I come back, I get into a fight with Henyo.
Oh, okay.
Because my friend Louis, we went out. Louis had a Camaro. We had a gravel driveway. He just pulled off, and rocks went flying.
Yeah.
And here's Henyo drunk, pair of underwear.
Yeah.
This big dude poking his finger in my chest.
Oh.
You and your friends, he's drunk. I'm like, oh my goodness. I haul off, and I threw a Mike Tyson picture perfect right hand. Bam! Turned it over, body weight and everything. Hit him square in his jaw, and his jaw did this.
Nothing.
Uh-oh.
And I felt like the cartoon characters where they break the pieces. And he goes,
Because I was going to say you were skinny.
yeah.
Okay.
Right? And he goes, now what? And and I take off running. He chases me through the woods, barefoot,
Oh
in his
my
underwear.
God.
And his underwear.
Right now, I've got nowhere to go. I'm like, my mom's going to charge me rent and everything. So I just hang out. I just keep walking around town. I'm on the edges of society, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I come home after midnight, and I'm like, I'm asleep, and I'm out of here Sunday morning. I'm back to the tennis academy. I just got to make it through the night.
Right.
5 o'clock in the morning, I get up to get out of here.
Yeah.
I'm going to get up super early and get to the tennis academy. I got the keys, but
Yeah.
I could show up at 5 and not 3 in the morning. Bob would know the alarm would go off at
Yeah.
5. I could play that off. Well,
I was there. I'm on board early.
and don't turn on any lights. I'm a mouse, quiet. Open the refrigerator, get my milk for some coffee. Hey, son, what are you doing up so early?
Oh my god.
He didn't remember anything.
Oh, no.
Really?
I was lucky. I was like, yes. But, I explained to him that evening when I got home, this, and he got into an argument with my mom. And then my grandfather came over. They threatened to throw him out,
Oh, really?
which in essence, either if I stay there, I'm going to get beat again or thrown
Yeah.
out. And I was like, listen, don't worry about it. So I said, I came to agreement. I would pay him rent. I had this agreement with him that he would take the money, and then later on in the day, he'd give it back to me.
Yeah.
So I would pay the
Okay.
$150 rent to Henyo. And if nobody's looking, he'd give me $150 back
Yeah.
and everything, and got over. And then I graduated from high school. I'm out.
And you're out.
I'm gone.
Yeah.
Yep. Now I'm staying at Tamar Tennis Academy, and I'm gone. And then life begins.
Now, mom at that time, she made the statement there's no Puerto Rican
Tennis pros.
tennis pro.
Right.
Like, how did that make you feel since you've been working so much into getting into that? And we're going to get more into your tennis career, but having her say something like that to you at that moment, how did
I felt like shit. I mean, it was the worst thing you could have said to me. Because, at some point in the fall, I went by myself, my first trip ever by myself. I'm 16 years old. I'm a kid. I don't know anything. I took 2 buses to get to the city and to Virginia, to Richmond, Virginia, to attend the United States Professional Tennis Registry program to become a certified teaching pro.
Yeah. Without their help.
Without their help. Bob helped me. But, Bob's like, I'll get you in. I'll pay for you to get in. You got to go. Bob taught me how to teach tennis. Teaching. Now I'm going to be a teaching pro.
Yeah.
And you telling me this? Like, wow. Like, really?
Right.
You're supposed to be my mom.
Correct.
Type thing. And I just knew that, she was just,
Yeah.
she was just as evil as the rest of them.
And you still persevere to all that.
I had no choice.
Like, how do you?
Okay.
I had
How
no
do you?
choice.
And I know. Yeah, I see that. But how do you like? And I guess this will probably come later. But how do you like resolve that?
I never did.
You never did. Okay.
When she died, I was barely saying 2 words. There was hello, goodbye.
Wow.
And only because of my son.
Wow.
Like, my son was born. It's not, I can't do that to him.
Yeah.
Right. And it was funny. Like, she would hold him, he would cry. Henya would hold him, the happiest kid in the world.
Yeah.
You can see the difference. He could feel it as a baby. Right. To this day, he knows the story. I've never said anything negative because that's not fair to him.
Yeah.
And that was my whole thing. And my whole thing was like, if I ever become a parent, I'm going to do things different. I will break this cycle.
Yeah.
And I've actively talked to my cousin about that for years,
Yeah.
breaking the cycle, type thing. But I had no choice to overcome it, but I did not like her, despised her.
Yeah.
Once I'm out, once I'm married and I've got my own house, my own life, we would visit and everything. And the few conversations I had, I would find new things out. Like, like I asked the point, like, why would you give us, I can never see myself giving my son up.
Yeah.
And I have a stepdaughter. I can never see myself giving my stepdaughter up. I can never do that. How could you do that? And she said, well, you have to understand, I was protecting you guys. What? You knew how abusive he was. He did it to your brother in front of you growing up. Like, why? And her response finally was, because I got a piece of property out of the deal. I said, what? She goes, that's how I got the house in the bag and everything.
Wow.
He would get the Social Security check from your dad. I'd get a house. You traded us for a house. Wow. Like, I just turned around and walked out.
Yeah.
Turned around and walked out. Got in the car, went back to Jersey.
Wow.
Like, I can't have a conversation with you. I don't want to look at you. I don't want to. And I would only go visit because of Henyo and because Magda would insist.
Yeah.
Also, you know?
What about your other brothers? Did they stay in touch with her? Did they continue to visit?
Yeah. My brother Joe didn't, you know, and when he would start an argument on purpose.
Okay.
And then it was funny, my brother Frank and her were always trying to, you know, be conniving and scheming to. So here's this 10 acres that when my grandparents died, it was supposed to be sold. I'm supposed to get 30%. Joe's gets 30%. Frankie gets 30%. Everybody else gets the remaining 10%. All the cash in the bank is split up between all the surviving grandchildren, great-grandchildren, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. My mom gets the 10 acres in the house. And then my mom turned around, and I wrote, because I was in computers at the time, I got software, and I did my grandparents' last will and testament. And then my mom went and had it changed and had everything turned into her name.
Wow.
And then she took a reverse mortgage on it. And then when she died and we lost the property and the whole nine. So the thing you gave us up for, you turned around and stole it from us.
And stole it.
Yeah.
And ended up with nothing.
Nothing.
Wow.
And it's funny, who are the three that were not trying to take advantage? Because my brother John was always trying to get over too, even with his one eye. They always took care of him and he took advantage of it. Yeah. Who are the three that own homes and on their own?
The ones that left.
Of course.
The ones that left and the ones that stood. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
That says something really, really cool about, not cool, but interesting about human nature itself. You know, it's sometimes we think that if we continuously take, even when the situations are bad, it works in our benefit. But in the long run, you know, the self-initiative, that desire to be you, out trumps all these other things, and it works better for you at the end. And that's a great thing about an individual, in my opinion, because if you don't have that self-reliance, and if you don't believe in what you're feeling internally, you avoid those things, then you become codependent.
Right, and then, you know, I got to give Bob a ton of credit, because we would play, he's the Michael Jordan of Miss Pac-Man. I'm the LeBron James. 1 quarter could last me an hour on Miss Pac-Man, the old arcade game. He had it at the Tennis Academy. He owned it, so we played for free.
Love Pac-Man.
We would bet. Miss Pac-Man.
Miss Pac-Man. Okay.
Miss Pac-Man.
But I played Pac-Man, and I loved it, so I can imagine.
So Miss Pac-Man. So we would play, but it was times because we would spend hours playing, and it was like double or nothing, right? And he would be talking to me, and he would, you know, guide me. Like, he taught me, you know, my favorite quote, what the mind of man can conceive and believe he can achieve.
Yep.
Bob taught me that, and he made me live by that. You know, conceive of an idea, Michael, believe in it, and work hard, you're going to achieve it. He was always in my ear, and he was always guiding me, and that was incredible for me, because I had that person that really cared, and he came from a loving place. And he was really pushing me, and he was really guiding me, and he put his foot in my butt when I was wrong, you know, too, and he held me accountable. He fired me once. That broke my heart, right? He hired me back a week later, right? But he had to teach me a lesson, you know, but those were all things that, you know, he really pushed me and guided me. And it wasn't, I look back at it, and it was never about tennis.
No.
It was about life. And him and Mary, and, you know, those were the things that were special. And, you know, and if not for him and his wife, I don't think I live. I really don't think I live. I think
that's pretty deep.
I think I probably would have, you know, committed suicide or just would have been, I wouldn't be here. I'll tell you that much. I guarantee you I wouldn't be here having this interview. I'd be a bum somewhere like my brother Frank.
There's something interesting that I kind of want to touch on, because we are in a soul's quest, and a lot of what we model goes into the hero's journey, right? And one of the hero's journeys is the first part is the call to the adventure, right? And your call to the adventure was expedited by the circumstances that you were in. But you always, when you go in that cycle, one of the most important things that happen is meeting a mentor,
right?
A person that guides you, and you had that individual.
Yeah.
What are some key points that you could share regarding that relationship, and how that relationship kind of like helped you transform into the next stage of your life, which we want to talk about more in your professional career? I
think it was just the time we spent together talking. Like, you remember back then, you're talking the 80s, Friday night boxing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or ABC Sports.
Uh-huh.
Wrestling?
Saturday boxing. Bob boxed in the military.
Okay.
Now, a funny story is my grandfather was a gold medal AAU middleweight champion
Oh, wow.
in the 20s.
Really?
And he could box. And my grandfather taught me how to box. But Bob was boxed in the Army, loved boxing. Every Friday night at Bob's house, watching the fights. And it was just time to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, just that time, he and I talking.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize he was going through a divorce. I didn't even know. Like, Mary was never at the house. I was always there. I never questioned it.
Yeah.
Because it was me and him just talking.
Yeah.
And that was the difference maker. That was the thing that really spurred me on, right? I mean, he the first book I ever received on leadership, I was 15, and he handed me the book, Leadership Secrets from Attila the Hun. I still have the book, right?
Yeah, you gave it to me. You let me read it too. Yeah.
Really?
He gave me that book. He goes, and he told me, Michael, you're going to be a leader one day. I mean, he saw that in me. He saw things, and he talked to me about it, and he was like, here, and as a kid going through all that, I would tell stories. I would, exaggerate things. I would lie.
Yeah.
Like, he would call me out on it. He was like, you got to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was like, nope, there's a shower, go, type thing. I mean, it was those little things, and it was just him being consistent. I had someone who cared about me.
Yeah.
He saw things in you that you didn't even see in yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
basically.
That
And
no one else saw in me.
Same. Yeah. And it's like, when you have somebody in your life like that, I can't, because I've never really had that experience. I know Omar has. So I was very fortunate to meet Omar's mentor. And that was like it was a beautiful experience for me.
Cub Scout guy, right?
Yes, Ken.
Boy
Ken.
Scouts, whatever.
Yeah, well, we ran both.
We
so
blows.
you're right.
We
We blows. No, you
We
blow.
Okay.
Go ahead. This is how we do. This is
I
what
know
happens.
this.
This is what
I know
happens.
this.
And you saw how natural it is. It just
Very natural.
It just goes from there.
But I was very fortunate to meet him. And even in that moment, just meeting him and seeing Omar with his friends, Danny and these guys that he was really close with, I could see how this man was so important to these boys and now adults. Like, they revered this individual. And he sat there sick, like very sick, and it was just a good experience. Like, it was just like, he made jokes. So how you putting up with this guy, Omar, you're too pretty for him, all this different stuff. And I was just like, I can see how impactful this man was. So it sounds like this guy was the same in a lot of ways.
If I picked up the phone right now and called Bob, I can guarantee you before we get off the phone, he would tell me how proud he is of me. He does it every time. He goes, Michael, don't forget, we're so proud of you, man.
That's a big
He
deal.
tells me, that means the world.
Of course.
Like, I didn't know at the time, Christine Vogel was a young lady. He was her tennis coach that he was mentoring. I didn't know that Kenneth Collins, he and I are friends. He played on the pro circuit and
Wow.
he's a tennis pro now. And like, I didn't realize Bob was mentoring him as well. He was, as a kid, was burned in a fire, in a home court fire, type thing. But he went on to play tennis and, college scholarship, played on the pro level, those type of, Bob was mentoring those people as well. I didn't realize it because he made me feel appreciated, unique, loved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everything was very sort of like, and there wasn't any, he made you feel just as, the same way that he would make anybody else feel, basically, is what you're saying.
Right. But I mean, and back then, I mean, he was a dude's dude, It
Yeah.
was like we had conversations, that we get into, but things, I mean, like, he would say things like, I'll never forget the first car I owned, Dodge Omni. I paid $250 for it. Bought it off a drunk guy at a bowling alley because it was leaking oil. I offered him $250 on the spot. He gave it to me, signed the title over. I take it the next day. The oil pan plug was loose. I tightened it up, ran that car into the ground. It broke down on a bridge. I left it for 3 days. I came back. It was towed by the state police. I go pick it up, driving it, breaks down on me. I take it to the local mechanic, and alternator's gone, the battery. I really don't have any money. And the mechanic says, listen, Michael, this is a junk car. You know that. I go, yeah. And he goes, I'll give you $100 for it. Now, meanwhile, I drove it into the ground for about a year. I paid $250 for it. And I was like, no, man. $150. And he's like, $100. I'm like, yo, $175. Bob pulls me over and he goes, dude, You paid $250 for it. He's gonna give you $100 cash. You got $100 in your pocket right now? I'm like, no.
That is hilarious.
And he goes, dude, I'm gonna teach you a lesson right now. And everything was like, I'm gonna teach you a lesson.
Yeah.
Right? Here's the lesson. Okay? You're gonna get away with $100. Okay?
Yeah.
Do the math.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Learn the lesson where it costs you the least amount of money.
Yes.
He would always say that to me. Learn the lesson where it costs you the least amount of money. Right? So I said, all right, take the $100. Go back, give him the title, and the story was, when I get back to Tennis Academy, he goes, what's the story? What did you learn? I was like, don't haggle over something that's junk. Take the money and run. He goes, exactly.
Yeah.
It was always those type of things with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's interesting because I want to now segue into your professional career.
Right,
Okay. We'll invite you back to have a conversation on relationship because that's a
Relationships in terms of
we'll bring him back there and talk to her. That's
you mean love relationships?
Oh, yeah,
no, I
love
didn't know
and
what you
stuff
meant.
like
I didn't know
that.
what you were referring to.
Yeah. But I want to get into that aspect of transitioning from that stage of tennis. How did your career end? How did that go? And what did you do after tennis?
Okay, so I got a cool story on my whole tennis thing. So I'm not going to college. I'm going to be this teaching pro. I'm going to play tournaments. I'm going to do my thing. And Bob is working with Arthur Ashe at the time and Nick Bollettieri in Bradenton. And they're going to bring minority tennis pros down to Bollettieri Tennis Academy, teach them the business side of tennis, put them in different inner cities throughout the country where they'll run tennis programs, because Arthur's belief was, what if I got Michael Jordan on a tennis court before he went on a basketball court?
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do.
Wow.
So the first class goes in. I wasn't part of it. 6-month program. I go in January. So I had to work like security, IBM, side jobs just to get to January. In January, I go to Bollettieri's. I'm done. So part of the process is they ask you, what city do you want to be placed in? When you're done with the program, where do you want to go? So I wanted to go to Honolulu. And they're like, and now this is at first it was called ABC Tennis Project, right? Ashe Bollettieri Cities Tennis Project.
Oh, okay.
ABC, right? Tennis Project. So I'm like, and Bob was like, come on, man. I was like, Bob, you can't tell me that there's no inner city kids in Hawaii, in Honolulu, or kids.
Right.
Right? Fair point. So I'm at Bollettieri's. I finished the program. I graduate. Summertime, they're not set up yet.
Yeah.
Right? So I remember, the mayor of Newark coming down. The Bollettieri was playing doubles along with one of the political connectors, and then the head of Department of Recreation, Roz Lightfoot, Sharp James, and we're playing doubles. I got to let them win type thing. But I go to Beaver Dam, Wisconsin to help Bollettieri run a summer camp up there that they have every year. And then I get back, and I get back to Bollettieri Tennis Academy, and I get called into the vice president's office, Ted Meekma. And he's a vice president. It's now IMG Tennis Academy. And he's the president of IMG, vice president of IMG. He says, Michael, how was it? I was like, you shoot the breeze. He goes, here's your plane ticket. You fly back to New Jersey tomorrow. We rented a car for you. Get the rental car, drive back home. It's only like an hour, 15-minute drive. And he goes, you spend a week, and then you and Bob will go back to Newark, and we'll go from there. Perfect. And he goes, and we got new clothes for you, Nike. Got a duffel bag, Nike clothes. I'm like,
well, hey,
wow.
Nice.
Great. Like, hey, this is cool. I go home, week with Bob. I follow Bob to Newark. We get to City Hall. I got the rental car. Get there. The mayor greets us outside of City Hall. Mayor's bodyguard, which are police officers, detectives. And he says, hey, I'll take the car for you. What do you mean? He goes, we're going to take it back to the airport for you. You got to go.
Yeah.
Get in the limo. I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
What are we doing? And I get in the mayor's limo.
Right.
I'm like, and I remember the mayor's like, hey, how are you talking? And we go to West Side Park in Newark.
Yeah.
TV crews out there, the trucks with the antennas. I'm like, I'm clueless. And they start this press conference.
Yeah.
And, Arthur's there. Arthur, hey, Michael, how are you doing? We're talking, good, And I'm sitting up near the podium, just in chairs, and everybody gets up and speaks. And then Arthur is the last one. And even Nick Bollettieri's there. I'm like, what in the hell? They're announcing that they've signed an agreement with Newark, New Jersey to run the ABC tennis project.
Oh, okay.
And the city is funding the entire program.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
For 1 year.
Really?
Right? And then
Wow.
we're sponsored by Nike. Cha-ching. I'm like, Nike.
Yeah.
Right? That's why I had the free Nike clothing. And I'm sitting there in the Nike clothing.
Now you
like
connecting the dots now.
No, not really.
Oh.
I'm like, I'm thinking I'm going to Honolulu because the whole press conference they're talking about, the goal of the program, what I was told was train people like me on the business side, let us go to our inner cities, and then Arthur would come in, do fundraisers, clinics, the whole nine. No. The mayor decided I want all of them to come to Newark.
Oh.
And it hits me. I'm like, oh. And it hits me when Arthur's speaking and he says, so we've signed this agreement. One of our first site directors is here with us, Mike Sancho.
Oh.
He's going to be running the site here, Westside Park,
okay.
which was a hellhole.
I was just going to ask her, what year was this in New York?
No. This is 1988.
Ay, okay.
88, 87.
Wow.
Press conference is happening. A crack addict drops her jeans. So we're sitting here on this side of the tennis court. On the other side, drops her jeans and pees onto the tennis court from behind the fence.
That's
in Newark, New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Arthur just finished saying that Michael's our site director here for the site. And I'm seeing this. I'm like, what? And then his chair's next to mine. He sits down and he goes, and I never knew that he knew I want to be in Honolulu. He goes, welcome to your Honolulu.
Oh my God.
And so we taught tennis, right? And I actually was sent over to Branchbrook Park, taught tennis there at the different parks, 4 different parks in Newark. When it got cold, we struck a deal with the Boys and Girls Clubs in Newark.
Okay.
And we went and taught tennis in the gyms.
Okay.
And that's how I began my journey with Boys and Girls Clubs.
Okay.
And the thing was that every night, my brother was now living in Brooklyn with his fiance, my brother Joe. So every night I'd take 4 stops on the train from the Penn Station in Newark to Penn Station in Manhattan, and then take the trains to Brooklyn. And I'd be getting in at like 1 a.m. because I would be done at 6 and I'd go to Brooklyn. I was like, I can't keep this up.
Yeah.
And on weekends I'm in Brooklyn and I'm hanging out with my nephew and doing all this, but it's taxing. So I decided, well, wait a minute. The teenagers hated me.
Yeah.
Because we would come in and take the gym from them.
Okay. Yeah.
And so now they'd have to do something for 2 hours while we ran our program. I decided to volunteer and run the gym at the clubs so the teens could come back. And I loved playing basketball. I was a pretty good basketball player, so I'd play ball till 9 o'clock at night when they closed, and I'd go home. And so I started off as a volunteer.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then
for the Boys and Girls Clubs.
For the Boys and Girls Clubs, right?
Gotcha.
I finished tennis and stay and volunteer.
So then how did you segue from the tennis? Now you're going to be becoming volunteering at the Boys and Girls Club. How did you become full-fledged into the Boys and Girls Club?
At some point, I decided to get married.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about
that. I mean, we're going to get in. Let's get into that. Let's get into love.
I met Magda. When I first met her, she wanted nothing to do with me, wanted nothing but to hit me over the head with her racket and my racket.
She still wants to, though, right?
Yeah.
So she played tennis.
Well, no.
Okay.
The tennis program was free for Essex County residents.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So there was no charge. So we had an adult program every Tuesday and Thursday evening, 6 to 8 was free adult lessons, or 7 to 9, something like that.
Yeah.
And she comes in with her friend to sign up for tennis lessons. And I say to her, I said, well, are you coming here to learn to play tennis? Or are you coming here to get in using tennis to get in shape?
Yeah.
She goes, what does that mean? I go, well, you should get in shape to play tennis. But if you're using tennis to get in shape, I think, you're better off having sex because you could lose 1,200 calories per orgasm. And she wanted nothing to do with me. She was disgusted. She walked away. Yeah. We had 4 courts. She was always trying to get off my court. And I would tell the other person, yo, dude, I'm going to marry. I would tell her I'm going to marry that woman. Switch with me. And she would try to hit me and all that. And we wound up being friends. But, I'm going to get married. And then, my time was up. Okay. I really just was not into... I was into tennis, but not into it anymore. I knew I couldn't be married, have this lifestyle type thing. Things weren't going as well as I had hoped after 6 years in the tennis program.
Yeah.
So in November of '93, that was it for me. And I didn't know what my next journey was going to be, but I continued volunteering at the Boys and Girls Club. And then Miss Banks, who's still at the clubs, and she's just like the Medea character. She is Medea. I always say that Tyler Perry, made Medea after her. She told me, hey, the club used to teach tennis at Broadway is looking for a club director. Yeah. You'd be perfect. You speak Spanish. It's in the Puerto Rican neighborhood, And I applied for a job and started as an employee in February. First day on the job as the club director, I show up in the middle of a blizzard.
Oh, wow.
February 8th, 1994. And at that time, at that club, our executive offices were there, but they were moving out.
Yeah.
And the executive director, Mel Knight, was there. And he was like, what are you doing here? I was like, well, first day. And he goes, it's a blizzard. We're closed. I'm like, I could go home. And that became my Boys and Girls Club journey.
Wow. That's I like how the dots keep connecting as you go along. And it's interesting because a quest is like that, There's moments when one of the things that you just mentioned was I wasn't sure what my next step was.
Right.
But by following what you were doing already, people recognized that, but you weren't aware of it. You were, oh my God, what am I going to do? But that just came like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it was funny because the very next year at the U.S. Open in Flushing Meadows, I go to the U.S. Open to do a tennis clinic with it was now the Safe Passage Foundation. Arthur had passed away, and now they have Arthur Ashe Day, so I go to do a clinic. I take the day off from work from Boys and Girls Club on a Monday, and I go do clinic with kids from Newark.
Yeah,
at the thing. So I kept involved with that was my last real tennis thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But and I also said if I ever have kids of my own, my daughter played. My daughter, she was ranked.
Wow. Oh, wow.
I was a coach, right?
Wow. So a second Puerto Rican in the
man. I was like, if I have from an early age a child. My son was born. He didn't want to. He got into karate instead.
Yeah.
Really pick up tennis, and I wasn't going to force him.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I have grandkids, I'll teach them, and I want to save that. It was a grind. I mean, I would never change it. If I could go back, I would do it all over again, right? Because it led me to where I'm at, and it led me to my wife and this great family I have. But I mean, dude, those days were like, I'd get on the court at 6 a.m. practice for me.
Yeah.
6 to 8, then come back, shower, eat breakfast, 9 to 5 all day long teaching.
Yeah.
Kids after kids. I mean, in a 6-year span, we gave over 10,000 free tennis lessons.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Right? We were grinding. Yeah. And then take a break, and then we'd have that adult program, and then I go practice for myself. Because you can't teach and play the same way.
No.
When I'm teaching, I'm setting the ball up so you could be successful.
Yeah.
If I play that way, I'm going to get hammered.
You're going to get hammered, yeah.
And then these kids got good real quick. So now, Thursdays, we're leaving for tournaments.
Oh, wow.
And so now you play a tournament, you're going to maximize. So I would play men's. I would play men's doubles, mixed doubles. I'm trying to win $500-600. And you're doing all this, and then I'm coaching. So I got to play. I got to coach.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't matter how many events you play. Sometimes you get 15 minutes before your next match. Well, I just played a 4-hour match.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, it's a grind, and you're doing this
constantly.
Yeah.
And we all live together. See, they gave us housing, and first it was the mayor's condo in downtown Newark, then the mayor's house in Irvington, New Jersey. So we lived together because we were all from out of town.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was constant tennis. It was 24/7 tennis.
That was your life.
That was my life,
Yeah.
and I loved it.
Yeah.
There was a lot of sacrificing. It's a lot of sacrificing of your time. But how did it feel? Because you were doing this and you were an automatic pilot and you did all these different things. How did it actually feel? Most people feel that it's work. Oh my God, I'm working hard. How did it feel, really?
Dude, you have to understand what we went through and what I went through was special. I got to, like, when Arthur Ashe comes into town, I pick him up. I get to spend time with Arthur Ashe. I get to walk streets with Arthur Ashe, people stopping him for autographs.
Yeah.
Right? Those type of things. I mean, I go to Madison Square Garden, the Masters tennis tournament, and I'm in the tunnels. Madison Square Garden, all the players, Andre Agassi, hey, what's up, Mike? Those type of things. I'm at the U.S. Open. So, I was the coach of the youth games, which is kind of like a junior Olympics, where they've got 14 different cities throughout the country come together. Every year they do the youth games, and Newark always had a team. And so I'm the tennis coach for the youth games. Wow. And we're sponsored by Nike. Head to toe Nike. I've got head tennis rackets. I'm not paying for anything. I got a company car, apartment.
Wow.
I should have been putting money away. I was spending money. Right? I was dating women and blowing money away. But anyway, it was beautiful. I mean, I'm with celebrities. I'm like meeting people. So I'm at the youth games in Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama, and I'll never forget this. And it's in August, right before the U.S. Open, and I'm coaching. These girls come up, snobbish girls, and they're like, "Why are you always wearing Nike and everything? What are you sponsored by them?" I was like, "Yeah." And they didn't believe me. Yeah. I was like, okay. And they're from another team and everything. They were from New York's team. Actually, New York's team. So now 2 weeks later, I'm at the U.S. Open. And the coolest story. I'm sitting at the rotunda in the front. When you walk in the Open, there's a big round thing. And I'm sitting there. Arthur's sitting next to me. And I told him I worked for Arthur Ashe. She was one of my mentors. You know, yeah, whatever. You know. That team walks in. Sitting there with Bob, and you know, Arthur gets up to go, everything, and then they're like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" I was like, "I told you who I was," and they still didn't believe me. Right? Out walks Andre Agassi.
Oh wow!
Right? And he comes up and he goes, "Hey, Mike, you ready?" "Yeah." Well, and we all go, and there was some press conference, forget what it was for, but we all, you know, Bob, Andre, Arthur, myself, Nick, Monica Sellers, we all walk away.
Yeah.
And they were like stunned, but I get to do those things.
Yes,
you know, I'm
It's that experience,
dude. It wasn't work, man. It was a party.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie to you. It was a party. We had a blast. I mean,
good.
Yeah,
it was, man. I mean, we did cool stuff. We go to Davis Cup matches.
Yeah,
you know, we were doing some
and all that
stuff.
All that happened because of a chance meeting of you going as a young kid looking for a job.
Yeah, literally.
Just taking that initiative.
Yeah.
That's
because if you had never
from.
done that,
Nope.
you would have probably never even met this
because
guy.
there's other people. No, because a lot of us teenagers worked at Terramar Tennis Academy. But I went there as a 11 or 12, whatever age I was, before I was legally allowed to work.
Yeah.
And that's the connection. But a lot of folks went through. Rolo worked over there with me. Alex worked over there with me. Eric Perez worked over there. That was a place in town to go work summer job. You know, he would bring up kids from Harlem that were on scholarship to get away from the urban environment.
Gotcha.
The foot of the Catskill Mountains to, you know, 2 weeks of tennis camp with this world-renowned tennis coach and Bob. Yeah. And, you know, it was a camp, sleepover camp.
So similar to what Omar did, because he, as a young, you know, young adult.
Boy Scout.
A child, actually. He became the Boy Scout. And then he was like, Ken put them in charge, and he was the leader, and then they were traveling and doing stuff. I mean, it's not necessarily the same magnitude, so to speak, but it's the same concept. You know what I mean? That.
But it was just a person. A person decided to take that chance on us.
Take that chance. And so...
Yeah. That's the cool part, is that...
just luck of the draw, man.
Right.
You know, like I always say, like, don't call me lucky if I win, you know, Mega Millions. I'm actually playing to try to win.
Right.
If I walk out your house and I'm driving home and I see a lottery ticket floating in the air and I stop and grab it.
And then you grab it,
And then I go, I won 2 million. I was like, that's luck.
Just think about us when you do that.
Who?
Let me ask you this, because this is pretty interesting now that you're going into an institution like the Boys and Girls Club. You had this experience with Bob. You have all these experiences that from meeting him through everything that opened up for you, and now you are in an institution that really epitomizes what Bob is. I mean, can you tell us about that stage in your life? I know that it's been 30 plus years.
I mean, it was just next step. It was just like a smooth transition, because we had celebrities at the clubs now. So not something I'm not. I bet, you know, Mike Tyson wins the heavyweight title. He tours the Boys and Girls Clubs in Newark.
Wow. Yeah. Right? Really?
Yeah.
Right. Wow. So I didn't get to meet Mike Tyson, right? But actually, I was his sister-in-law's coach, Stephanie Givens. So I knew Robin Givens from up in Terramar Tennis Academy. Like, but now Mike Tyson's walking through the club. You know, Bob, hundreds of people, and I'm there.
Yeah.
I actually got a picture with Buster Douglas after he knocked out Mike Tyson. And it's a funny story because like years later, I'm at a high school and the assistant principal has the picture of me, Buster Douglas, and him. Right? And so I'm meeting, and it's behind his desk because he's not seeing it. And he's like, wow, I know you from somewhere. And I'm smiling. I'm like, and he's like, huh? And I go, And he turns around and goes, "Oh my goodness! I've for years been wondering who was in that picture with me."
Oh, that's hilarious.
President George Bush. I was at the club when he came through.
Really?
So it was a continuation. Boys and Girls Club in Newark was huge.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't
It's one
know
of the big
that.
clubs.
Shaq. I know you have a
Shaq
picture
was
with
a club.
Shaq.
That was one of the biggest clubs you said just now?
It was one of the most renowned national clubs. The awards that we won. And
Wow.
that club was like half.
And you were the director of this club?
No, well, the whole organization was that way. But
Okay.
director at the club. So
Wow.
Shaquille O'Neal was a club member. Boys and Girls Club Newark.
Yes,
Queen
he was
Latifah.
big on that. Yeah,
Queen Latifah was there.
Yeah, I knew
Yeah.
about
So,
that.
then I was the club director, and then I became. So I got a company. It was a real estate company that redoes office buildings, right? And they had a job fair with the kids about careers in real estate. So from marketing to real estate agents to construction. So we did this thing with the teens.
The entire industry.
And 286 computers. That's what I'm talking about, right? This is 1996. And they say, "Hey, Mike, we want to come to your club. We want to take one of the rooms upstairs, convert it into a tech center. You down?" I was like, "Let's do it."
Yep.
Yeah.
Then the organization says, "Mike, we want you to be director of technology." I didn't know anything about technology. We got those computers donated. I quickly learned about technology and created a membership database from scratch.
Nice.
Wow.
I could be filthy rich.
Yeah.
And we ran it with Microsoft Access. And I learned, then they did that, and I went to school. I went to New Horizons Computer Learning Center for 18 months and got my Microsoft certifications.
Oh, wow.
And got into it. And then Shaq comes to Newark, and he goes to the South Ward Boys and Girls Club, he was a club member. But it was no longer a Boys and Girls Club because I walked out of that club during my tennis days into the middle of shootouts. So
Really?
it was real bad.
Wow.
It was a very unsafe club, so they had to close it. It was unsafe for kids and for staff.
Yeah.
So he went back, and it's etched in stone, Boys Club above the front door.
Wow.
And so he thought he was donating to his boys club that he grew up in.
Yeah.
And during the press conference, they put him in a broom closet. literally in a broom closet.
Really?
And he was pissed. He was like, "I'll never donate to Boys and Girls Club again. How could they do that?" And they were like, "Yo, dude, that's not a Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah.
That's a City of Newark rec center."
Yeah.
He goes, "What? Where's my club?" Got connected. So the West Side Club, where his club director, Trevor Strickler, who's a friend of mine, was director. He came back. Now he's with the Lakers. He did a jungle gym playground set, purple and gold.
Wow.
He built a tennis court in the back because he heard that they had a former tennis pro on staff that taught tennis to the kids. He did tennis court. He did outdoor basketball courts right outside of that. He redid the field so they could have a little ball field for Little League baseball and softball. And he comes in to do the press conference to announce this, and only Shaq could see this. I had gotten my original club, the Tech Center, set up. Now I'm building tech centers, the other ones. And AT&T donated these old computers, which was this big, bulky
The boxes.
with the old facsimile paper that comes out the back.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
So the room,
what is it? MS-DOS?
yes. So the room,
No mice, or what is it, mice, right? Or mouses, or whatever.
So the room we're converting into that, there was a sofa. I pulled a sofa as far back in the room as possible and put these 6 machines behind it. Shaq peeks in. He's the only one tall enough to see over the sofa from across the room. And he goes, "What is that back there? What are you trying to hide?" And he comes, and then he made the decision to donate $1 million to Boys and Girls Club America
Wow.
to start the Club Tech program.
Yep.
Really?
He said, "I do that as long as Newark gets 2 tech centers."
Ooh, that gives me chills.
Yeah. And so
That's pretty cool.
It was like, I'm living this charmed life because I'm like doing things.
Yeah.
We're doing that. And as I was VP of Program Services, Natural Transgression, advancing my career.
Yeah.
Boys and Girls Club America used to do a president's dinner at the Waldorf Astoria.
Wow.
So we had kids. We had a DJ program, female DJ instructor,
That's
DJ
awesome.
Lazy K.
Nice.
We were the DJs for the red carpet.
Really?
For all the guests coming in.
That is cool.
So, and there was 2 rooms. There was, when you walk in the hallway, red carpet, room A and room B,
Right.
Yeah.
and different music. But we were the paparazzi. So my kids for the tech program were the photographers, the videographers,
That is
doing the
crazy.
interviews. So it was like everything I was doing in tennis with famous people and all that. It just
Segued into
Moved
doing
right
it.
into, yeah.
I mean, we went to go meet with Goldie Hawn
wow.
to do a yoga program. I meet Kate Hudson when she was dating Alex Rodriguez.
Really?
Yeah, walk in. She goes, "Hi, I'm Kate Hudson. I'm Goldie's daughter." was like, I know who you are. You're
That
dating
is
my favorite player,
crazy.
A-Rod. She's like,
Oh my
he's
God.
on his way. You want to meet him? I was like, yeah, I'd love to meet him. I didn't get to meet him.
Oh, okay.
You know, he
I was
didn't
like,
come up. I was
you
like, but that's what we were doing in Newark. So it was like,
Wow.
it was just like tennis. You know, my tennis days. It was
Interesting.
It was cool.
That is really cool.
Tell us about because in along the lines, and again, those are the. I mean, I know about your stories and all your achievements and things like that. But when we talk, you talk a lot about the relationships that you have built with both club members and your club staff. Can you talk about some of those people?
Nope. I don't have their permission now. I can.
No names. No names.
Well, I mean, but you can share names because personally, since I know a lot of the things, or the big things that you have accomplished, we always end up going back and talking about the individuals and the kids and the staff.
I mean, being at the Boys and Girls Clubs in Newark, I mean, I had this great experience at Tamar Tennis Academy of Tennis. I'd put the Boys and Girls Club of Newark experience above that. Because that's part of my tennis experience as well, because I taught tennis in the gyms. But, you know, these are individuals that it was such a tight-knit family, because the Boys and Girls Clubs of Newark was always doing big things, but always had budget issues.
Yeah.
Small, 3-unit organization.
Yeah.
Constant turnover. When I was involved from volunteerism all the way through until I moved to Martin County, I went through 17 CEOs in like 22 years. 22 years, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
we
like
did.
one every year.
6 months,
just about.
sometimes 6 months. And
Wow.
so we became very close-knit. I mean, so you look at it, Miss Banks is still there. Miss Code, her right-hand person, she's still there. And then you had like Amir Washington, who is now the CEO. I taught him tennis at Jesse Allen Park behind the Boys and Girls Club that he went to.
Wow.
At the age of 6. He is now the CEO.
Yeah.
Felix Rouse, who hated me as a teenager, I didn't even know him. He goes off to college. They hire him as my program director when I'm club director, and don't tell me about it. I get stuck with the golden child. He was National Youth of the Year runner. He's one of my closest friends.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, so
Wow.
it was funny because I got pissed. I got in a heated argument with Miss Banks, and I was like, I don't interview the guy. She was like, no, he's Youth of the Year. And so we had a staff meeting on Friday. We were open Tuesday through Saturday, so off Monday. We had another staff meeting planned for summer on Tuesday at my club. I'm hosting. Felix's first day of work, he walks in 15 minutes late. I'm fuming. I'm like, I get stuck with the golden child. He walks in here late, and Miss Banks doesn't say anything to him. I'm like, okay. Meeting's over. And I go, hey, Felix, I'm Mike. And she's like, yeah, can we meet? I was like, yeah, we need to meet. And we go, and he goes, can I speak first? I said, sure. And he goes, I know you don't like me and that you're upset. I was like, whoa, time out. I don't even know you. So for you to say, I don't like you, don't start. Because I won't like you if that's your attitude. And he was like, I asked him to interview with you. I want to make sure we were a good fit. I told him they were wrong. I said, I'm not mad at you. I don't know you. I said, I am upset about one thing, and I'll get to that. But I said, you were thrust on me. I said, I took your packet home. I would have hired you on the spot had they given me the packet.
Right.
Yeah.
You are beyond the candidate. I'm looking at you to replace me as the director here when I move up.
Right.
He's like, oh, really? I was like, now what I'm upset about is that you were 15 minutes late to work today.
Yeah.
That can't happen again.
Yeah.
And we had a great conversation. And, and like Magda knows this. So we worked till 9 o'clock. Our schedule was 1 to 9.
Yeah.
And so it's around 8 o'clock. And we're talking, and I said, yo, Felix, what are you doing for dinner? He goes, I have no idea. Probably not going to eat. What?
Yeah.
And he said, I just graduated from the University of Pennsylvania. I spent my last dime moving back here to Newark to take this job.
Yeah.
I was late because I didn't have money to catch the bus. I had to walk.
Oh, wow.
I don't have food.
Yeah.
I said, hold on 1 second. Pick up the phone. I said, hey, hun, set another plate at the table for Felix. He's going to have dinner. What? I was like, I'll explain later.
Yeah.
And I said, Felix, you come home and dinner with me. So I fed him all week long. And, I brought him lunch and everything. And we friends. I mean, I was, a groomsman at his wedding and everything. He's a friend of mine. And
Wow.
we mentored together Daquan. So Amir, Felix, and I mentored Daquan. Everybody, Trevor Strigler, who was a club director, is still a friend of mine. Dave Green, who ran world famous, world champion Flip City Tumblers friends of mine.
Wow.
We were a close-knit group. We hung together because we went through so much together.
Yeah.
There were times where all of us didn't know if we were going to have a job because struggling to meet payroll.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And they never missed payroll. But we late nights till midnight doing youth of the year paperwork together, because the new folks didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
It was a family. It was really, and for me to see that and from my childhood, not having that, I gravitate to people like Omar and I type because I gravitate to people like that. Once I get a connection, it's you got to really do something horrible for me to break that.
Yeah, I can see that with that you're a lot like he is, or maybe you're like he is.
He's older than I am.
Oh, okay, so you're like
you don't have to go there.
Yeah, why did he go there? He's got a little gray in his beard too. So,
hey, have a lot. I got a lot to catch up.
This is called wisdom.
There you go.
Sophistication. That's what the kids tell me.